It's got Pat me at the
When playing while I present. Good afternoon. Welcome to the latest installment of Internship Presentations, featuring students in the Waynesburg University Department of Communication. My name is Bobby Foss. I'm the Sports Information Director here at Waynesburg, and I am pleased and honored to introduce 4 presenters who will be regaling you with their experiences. First up will be Nathan Grella. Nathan calls Gloucester, Virginia home and is a sports information athletic communication major. This past summer, Nathan interned with the State College Spikes of the Major League Baseball draft team. He carried the title of Assistant Director of In-Game Entertainment with the Spikes and was responsible for creating graphics for the team's video board, compiling game music, and creating engaging promotions for the team's fans. Our next presenter will be Erin Lang. Erin is a communication major with a minor in English and is a native of Upper St. Clair, Pennsylvania. She worked as a videography intern with the Washington Wild Things baseball team of the Frontier League. Her daily responsibilities included caring for cameras and other equipment, recording game day footage, and taking photos of the games and fans enjoying their time at Wild Things Park. The third presenter today will be Wes Champlin. Wes hails from Gwinnett Valley, Pennsylvania, and is a sports information athletic communications major. This past summer, he served as a sports information intern at Arcadia University in Glenside, Pennsylvania. During his time at Arcadia, he was heavily involved in updating the school's athletic record books for 19 of its 26 programs. Wes also assisted in Media Day content creation, as well as event photography, and prepared articles for the Arcadia Athletics website. Last but not least is Colin Rhodes. Colin is a sports media major from Manor, Pennsylvania, and also interned with the Washington Wild Things, albeit in their media relations department. His daily duties included producing news releases and feature pieces for the team, while also posting to the team's Instagram account. Colin attended the needs of visiting media members and assisted with game day broadcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, we certainly hope that you enjoy learning about the myriad of experiences these 4 hardworking individuals enjoyed while expanding their respective educations off campus. So, without further ado, let's welcome Nathan Grella to the front. Nathan?
Have any of you ever gone to an athletic event, seen the video board, and wondered how it got there? A lot of that responsibility falls upon 1 or 2 individuals working in that athletic department or in that front office, and that usually falls upon the director of in-game entertainment. And for me, this past summer, I was the assistant director of in-game entertainment for the State College Spikes. So what are the State College Spikes? They are an MLB Draft League affiliate. They are the former single-A affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals. Over COVID, with the regulation of some of the minor league baseball teams in the MLB, they were canceled out of the MLB, so they became an MLB draft season or MLB Draft League affiliate, which basically means they take college-level players and try to showcase them before the draft begins, so that they get a little bit more eyeballs on them. So I started with the State College Spikes back in 2018 when I was a junior in high school as a production associate, getting my feet wet in the press box, running cameras, stuff like that. And then over time, I graduated to a production intern, which was the 3rd person responsible, basically the person below the assistant director of in-game entertainment, and then I was promoted last season to full-time over the summer as the assistant director of in-game entertainment. My supervisors, first of all, was John Foreman, the director of in-game entertainment. He was actually a full-time realtor in State College, so a lot of my responsibilities he gave to me in the morning and then left for 6 hours and said, figure it out. So a lot of my experience this summer was just trying to learn some of the programs by myself and try to get what I wanted to up on the video board on the screen through the programs. And then the second person was the Director of Communications, Joe Putnam, and Joe is a riot. I have seen Joe do a hiding contest with a dog, Basically, he is the director of fund for the State College Spikes, and our job in the background is to make him as presentable as possible. So as you can see, he's wearing a sombrero in the picture for Cinco de Mayo. My daily commute, if you guys know me very well, that I moved over the past summer at the beginning of July. So I had 3 different houses that I stayed at in the State College area, one in June, one in July, and one in August. The house number 1 was my actual home. There was a period at the end of June where I was staying in an empty house on an air mattress for a week. Then I moved into my second house, which was a family friend, and then the third house, which was in Bellefonte. So definitely a challenge having to move all of your stuff 3 separate times basically, and then going to school right after that. So my game day responsibilities, I would work basically 12 to 14 hours a day, most days in a week. This is a basic game day for me. I would come in the morning and update all of the graphics that had to get ready every single day. So like PSECU saving the game, changing each team's headshots, updating the CG computer, stuff like that. After lunch, I would create specific graphics for that game. So for every game, we would have a different promotion, and with that promotion, you would have to create 5, 10, 15 different graphics applying to that promotion, videos, promotion, stuff like that. So from 3 to 5 was the time that I really enjoyed because I could just turn on my headphones and load everything that I made into the computer. I really enjoyed working with the Daktronics computer, so just kind of working the files and uploading everything, organizing them, putting it into place. We organized everything by inning in the Daktronics computer, so just having everything organized and ready to go. And then at 6 o'clock was game time. So running the Daktronics computer, which was the computer that controlled the video board, and displaying everything and putting it up. Some of the programs that I used, basically, that's the Daktronics Display Studio. Every one of those colors is a button, and as soon as you hit that button with your mouse, it pops up on the video board. So I would have literally pages across going along the bottom and the top that you have to remember where everything is throughout the game. Some of my examples of graphic design that I did to create for the video board, the 2 on top and the 1 on the bottom right were in-game graphics that we used for the video board, so displaying promotions for future games. The one at the left was something I made for social media because Joe Putnam would control the social media, but sometimes he didn't always have the time to create everything for it. And then in the middle was something that I did in the middle of the season. Basically, we had to create graphics for each player that played on the team going into the MLB draft. So, some of my examples of video content that I made for the video board, I'm not going to read every one of those descriptive terms, but basically the top here is an example of an in-game advertisement that we did. So Green Horizon Landscape Company contacted us and said that they wanted to do a tip of the day. So that if you're a freshman and you're learning how to mask, there's an example of masking in the real world. And then also this duck hunt animation I made. I made a bunch of these for each individual teams, basically saying, and then lastly, toward the end of the season, we tried to do a lot more fun videos with team players in the tunnel coming by saying what their favorite superhero was, cutting it up and doing highlights, stuff like that. Some of the challenges, because it's the MLB Draft League, you're getting a new player every day or other day. We're having a constant turnstile of players coming in and out. That created a lot of challenges, creating headshots, getting pictures done, things of that nature. The schedule, working 60 hours a week for most of the weeks of the summer is tiring, even though I didn't love what I did. It created a constant challenge, just trying to get enough sleep, working from 9 a.m. to 11, 12, midnight every day. Some of the older technology that we have, we are not an HD RAN affiliate, so just learning all the different cables and stuff would constantly break and having to change that. We did have a short staff, so there was at one point I was doing 3 different jobs during a game at once, running the video board, cut highlights and running stats all at the same time. That was a challenge for sure. Moving to Virginia and having to move all the different stuff, and then just different promotions that we did throughout the game. So, and then one last thing that I wanted to show you guys that I think encapsulates everything that I did. On my last day, I was invited to do a promotion on the field, and I think this shows, you're seeing the 3D graphic that I made, and then the promotions process that goes through everything that we did at the State College Lakes.
It's time for some bubble ball because it is with some of our production crew's last days here. Joe, take it away.
We've had the brawl to end it all. We've had the war to settle the score. Now, Quincy over here, Nathan over at the foul line will be following in their footsteps in the clap and the bash and the mash here at Medler Field. Are you ready? Come on, get set, bubble ball! And so let's start things off. Nathan out in front early on. Oh, Nathan's building up the head of steam. Here we go! Oh! Quincy knocked off balance, but keeps his feet. All right, we're all tied up. 2 apiece. Oh, Nathan. Oh, he is not going to waste any time. Oh! Quincy turtled up there a little bit, trying to avoid things, but Nathan gets the last tag. He's our winner. And you know what? It's our last day, so how about one more? One more for old time's sake. There we go! Happy Valley Gladiators. Let's give it up for Nathan and Quincy from
All right, so does anybody have any questions?
I do. Did you keep everything that you created? Are you able to keep a portfolio of your
Yeah, but most of I try to get one example of everything that I did, whether it be graphic design, video content, stuff like that. But most of it's still on the computer up there. So
What advantages did you get from starting so early in high school?
I think that I learned the process of working in sports early on, what the development of relationship with players, with front office staff, where you rank in the totem pole. I think that was probably the most valuable part of just getting started early.
So you did a lot of different jobs, and one of it seemed was putting the hit stick with people and big rubber balls. How did that prepare you for a job in collegiate athletics, having to do so many different hats and so many different roles?
Yeah, I think just like being able to get a lot of different experiences and different things where, you're creating videos, you're creating audio, you're creating graphic design, you're literally running a camera. I mean, a lot of my responsibilities early on as a junior in high school, senior in high school was behind the camera. So just getting a bunch of different experiences in a bunch of different places kind of prepared me for my job that I'm going into next.
I do have one. Based on your experiences in Waynesburg, your experience with this internship, all the other summers where you worked, the projects you've led, what would you communicate to freshmen and sophomores in our program?
Probably don't be afraid to try a bunch of different new experiences. When I came here, I either wanted to be a person going into radio or in sports information, and over time, I kind of saw this as like my second job kind of, and I didn't really focus on it until this summer when I got a ton of different experience in it, and I was like, wow, I'm really good at this and I love doing it. So I would say just don't be afraid to try new things here at Waynesburg that maybe you don't have a ton of experience in and aren't afraid to learn. So. And next up from the Washington Wild Things, Erin Lang.
Thank you guys so much for coming today. My name is Erin Lang, and over the summer I did my internship with the Washington Wild Things. Now, whenever I was choosing an internship, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I came across this opportunity and I thought that it would be a really great way for me to build some general videography skills, as I did end up being a videography intern. These were some of my supervisors that I had during my time with the Washington Wild Things. Sean Seaman was my primary video supervisor. He was the creative services and broadcast manager there. He's the one who hired me and would give me my daily assignments for what I had to do. Kyle Dawson was Sean's boss, essentially, and so I didn't report to him quite as much, but he was in charge of baseball operations and was the live broadcaster on our live stream. I also put Jeremiah Miller up here as we know in the department. He was the director of the live broadcast and would give me my assignments as well for what I should be doing and calling different shots about what we were to get during the games. So these guys really helped shape some of my experience while I was there. Day in the life. When I was there, I would report about 2 hours before game time, so most days that was about 5 o'clock. And when I got there very shortly after, I would get my assignment. So that would be where I'm standing during the game. Sometimes it might be what equipment I have to bring out. And based on the equipment, I had to bring it out and set it up. It's a lot to carry sometimes and a little awkward, but got it out there and had it set up very short amount of time so we could make sure that everything worked. Very important because sometimes things broke and you had to troubleshoot. Luckily, we didn't have much of those challenges, but we did have some, so we were able to get things squared away before the game even started. And then during the game, we had to get shots depending on the angle that we were at. So if you were at first base camera, you would be in charge of following a batter, and I'll get more into that in just a second. When we started with the Washington Wild Things, we were told their slogan is "We Make Forever Fans," and that's what they really wanted us to try and do, was to interact with the fans and give them the best experience possible. So whether that meant interacting with a kid who asked you a small question, or people waving at you to be on camera and just pointing your camera at them for a little bit, it was a lot of fun to get to see those smiles and those fun interactions during the games. These were some of my views during the games. We had the third base camera over on the third base line. Fortunately, this position didn't last very long. We had some technical issues, so we weren't able to use that camera for very long. But we did switch over to a high home position, which is between first base and home plate. And I spent a good amount of time up here in this position. But primarily, we would focus on the pitcher, following them around the field and their actions. First base was a little bit more challenging, as you would follow the batter and the movement around the bases, as well as focusing on when batters came to score at home plate. Very important to always get those shots and to keep track of where the players were throughout the game. Some of my duties and responsibilities, as I said, a lot of equipment that I had to deal with every day. I had to have a camera and a tripod as a necessity. We also had a SDI cable, which we connected to the camera to connect over to the live stream. We had headsets to communicate with directors and with each other, and XLR cables to make sure that connection actually worked. We also had to have chargers, camera never died, and depending on whether rain equipment was going to be a must, it did rain quite a bit in Washington, so that included a camera cover over the top of the camera, and sometimes a poncho. Unfortunately, those were not good quality and did rip, so I made sure to always bring a rain jacket with me during those days. And like I said before, capturing footage is very important for this job because people watching on the broadcast have to know what's going on. So we are taking video of the runners, the pitchers, any action that's happening on the field, and even in between innings, we're taking video of the fans, and we're taking video of the Wild Thing, who's always creating mischief in the park. But a lot of activities are going on, and we're trying to showcase the excitement and fun that can happen with the Wild Things. Not only that, there were some other assignments that did get added on for me throughout my internship. These were kind of some of the new opportunities that I had. Early on, Sean asked us, who has a camera? And so I said that I do. I have my own personal camera, and he said to bring it in for these two specific games: the Celebrity All-Star, or the Celebrity Softball game, and the Frontier League All-Star game. These are two big events that we had in the middle of the season that were very, very big for us. The first was the Celebrity Softball game. This was an all-day event where there were kids' events at the beginning of the day. There were bouncy houses, and there were different ball teams playing in the field. Some of the Washington Wild Things even came and played with some of the kids on the field, running bases, throwing pitches to them, was a lot of fun to just see them and be around all that excitement. The Steel City Drumline also came in and performed for the crowd before the game, so it was fun to kind of hear them and see them perform, the energy that they brought to the crowd. And my primary position during this, where I was in the stands. I wasn't walking around with a video camera. I had my DSLR camera instead, and I was taking pictures. This was actually a bit of a challenge because of the crowds. There were so many people climbing over each other to try and get autographs from people like Kenny Pickett. I'm not a big Steelers person, but these people were going insane for some of these celebrities, and it was madness to me. The other game was the Frontier League All-Star Game. For this, I did spend a little bit more time on the field. I took pictures before the game of the Hall of Fame induction, as well as when players are being called onto the field to be introduced for the various teams that are playing. So the primary focus here was on the Wild Things, but we wanted to make sure to show everyone because this was such an important event for us, hosting the All-Star Game. And a lot of fan interactions here. There were a lot of people from all over the country who were coming to see their teams play. I got to interact with a really nice gentleman and his wife who are fans of the Florence Yalls. They were just very, very sweet. This picture down here at the bottom is one that I took and actually ended up within the social media of the Washington Wild Things. So it's kind of cool to get to see something that I created and I took end up as part of their stuff. Now, another opportunity I had came in late July. I got to work the home plate camera. And this was something I was a little bit hesitant about doing early in the internship because generally watching baseball, I find it hard to watch the tiny little white dot go across the field. So I thought watching it on a small screen and trying to follow it was going to be very difficult. But I was lucky that I had some really good mentors and people encouraging me during the games to guide me and kind of coach me into how to be better at this job. And I felt very comfortable toward the end. I was able to do this position multiple times and actually had a lot of fun doing this. Now, some of the challenges and the ways that I overcame these things, one of the challenges I did have initially was my work environment. I'm not typically a sports person. I don't work with Lucin or with some of the sports productions here. And that was primarily the group that I was with was Waynesburg students from Lucin. So it was interesting to see that new dynamic. And it was also interesting, I was one of 2 girls in this internship. So it was very odd to be sort of the odd one out as the only girl there, but I was able to kind of make friends with some of the guys that I hadn't been as close with before. I did have some scheduling conflicts as well. I worked a part-time job in Washington at Michael's, and some of my shifts did run until 5 o'clock when I was supposed to report to the Wild Things at 5. So I had to make sure that I was contacting Sean and saying that I was going to be late and making sure that we have arrangements so that way things got covered. And at one point during the summer, there was a small COVID scare at my house. My mom got COVID, but the rest of my family was fine. But I did make sure to communicate with Sean of the situation. He said to stay home, but after testing negative, I was able to return to the job. So I also picked up some other shifts with the Wild Things as well, kind of make up for it and also just pull my weight and be there as an extra hand in case they needed it. And some of the new assignments, going into this, I did expect to do more videography work, actually making some video and recording and doing some editing. Fortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to do that, but I did get the opportunity to go and take photography and enhance my photography skills, which I wasn't expecting, but was very glad for the opportunity to get that. And something I did learn over the course of this internship, baseball is not something I probably want to go into for my job, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I had to be part of the internship and to have the experience that I did. Are there any questions?
What was the worst part about the internship and why was it Jeremiah?
Honestly, the weather was probably the worst because you're outside all the time and I had to be prepared every day. Sometimes I would come with a sweatshirt because as it's the middle of summer, but as the weather goes on, it's getting colder. I had to bring a rain jacket sometimes, and so just kind of being prepared weather-wise was probably one of the more stressful things. And the rain just stopped.
How is this internship still beneficial to you, even though you don't want to go into baseball or the realm of sports?
I think it's really taught me to be adaptive and to not expect everything going in, but at the same time, be able to learn new things. So I'm able to use some of the videography skills to do new projects, but I'm also able to now say, I've done photography at live events and done photography at baseball games, which is really cool. And be able to say that I'm willing to step up and do anything that someone asks of me.
I know that the Wild Things does like theme nights. What was your favorite theme night to cover?
I like some of the princess nights. They had people come in dressed as characters and everything, so it was fun to see all like the little kids dressed in costumes too. Some of the parents were dressed as in costumes. Which was always really fun to see those things. Awesome, thank you guys. Next up, we're going to have Wes Champlin.
So in June of 2022, I accepted an internship at Arcadia University as an athletic communications intern. Now getting to that internship was a bit of a struggle because I started searching for an internship probably a little bit late and probably about beginning of April. You don't want to do that. And I sent out an email to 7 or 8 schools in my area, in my home, as Bobby mentioned, in Winter Valley, Pennsylvania, which is around Philadelphia. And only one got back to me, and that was Arcadia. And Adam Fundamento emailed me, and he said, if you want to be an intern here, we could definitely use your help. So began my midsummer night's dream. Arcadia University was founded in 1853. It's an all-female school in the 1980s. They integrated into co-ed, and they have Division III athletics in the MAC, which is the Middle Athletic Conference, not the Mid-Atlantic Conference, as you all know. There are 2 divisions in the Middle Athletic Conference, which is the MAC Freedom and the MAC Commonwealth. Arcadia was in the MAC Freedom until 2022, the year before I started, when they went to the MAC Commonwealth. Now this was a little bit of trouble for me as I updated the record books, which we'll learn about later, but I overlooked that. And they have 26 sports, and they added a few just in years before. Now, my boss was Adam Fundamento, who emailed me. He was the athletic communications director, he still is. He started in February 2022, just before he emailed me and brought me on. And the associate athletic communications director, Scott DeBell. Scott DeBell went to Quinnipiac University before he came to work at Arcadia University. Now, the office was where I spent about 90% of my time. That's Adam's desk with his jersey from his time as a baseball player at Arcadia. Scott's desk is over there, and my desk in the corner with the door right there. Now this is the laptop on my desk with the door right there, so Scott's desk would have been to my left and Adam right across. I mention that because fitting into the office environment was something that I worried about because I never worked in a professional office environment before, and just getting that experience and becoming one of the Arcadia people was something that I was worried about. Now, my main task was to update the record books. This hadn't been done for Arcadia since the beginning of 2020, the pandemic obviously, and I had to update both the format and the data. Now, this took me up until the last day of my internship, so about 3 months. I started on June 1st and I ended up on August 23rd. It was quite the grind. Coming in every single day, doing one thing for 2 months, 2.5 months straight, it was really something of a challenge for me because I looked forward to coming in the office because they made it fun to come in, but opening up every single day, I'd show up at 11, open InDesign, work for a few hours, maybe take a short 5-minute break, and then work until 4 or 3. Now, I did not update the record books for every single sport, as Bobby mentioned. I updated record books for 19 of the 26 sports because not every sport needed updating because they were either just created, as I mentioned, or they were esports and it's kind of hard to come up with statistics for esports. Now, there were 9 different types of records. Each sport did not have every single type of record I mentioned here, but each of these was a different document, and each document was probably about 3 to 4 pages on average. Each sport, on average, had about 3 to 5 documents of these, but for cross-country, there was only top finishes, course records, year by year, and coaches' records, because there's no statistical batting average, yards, or whatever. Now for baseball, there was no top finishes or course records because they don't have those. The other duties that I had as an intern was to take pictures for the Arcadia Athletics golf outing. And this was a bit of a challenge for me because it was about the second week of my internship on a Monday, and they were like, yep, be here at 12, and I was at the golf course at 12, and I didn't know anybody, and I showed up, kind of just walked around for a little bit, and talked to Adam, and then he had me go to the third hole, and I took group pictures of each person. And the challenge with that was that I'm not that experienced with photography, and I had to direct. The foursomes were full of board members and people that were my boss, Brian Ganata, the athletic director at Arcadia, who was my boss. And I had to tell them what to do, fit into the photo to make it look good. So it felt really weird being an intern and just being there for only 2 weeks and telling these people who were on the board and control the money for an entire university what to do. Near the end of my internship, I recorded a video for Media Days, the video introductions, and I assisted in their content creation. I helped Scott take pictures, and I helped him set up and tear down. These are the Media Days for soccer, women's soccer, and field hockey. And finally, I wrote articles for the Arcadia Athletics website, which was something that I was really looking forward to at the beginning of the year, before I knew I had to do all the record books. And it was about 2.5 months in the middle of August, and Adam was going to leave, and he said, hey Wes, do you want to write? And I was like, yes, please, because I had been doing InDesign and the record books for 2.5 months straight, probably about 200 hours so far. As I mentioned, the challenges of getting through the record books, it was a real grind. Just doing one thing for that long, it's hard to stay on task, it's hard to stay motivated, but it was a good environment in the office, so I was able to do so. Fitting into the office, like I said, it was going to be a real challenge for me because I've never worked in that environment. The golf outing, definitely a challenge, and COVID scares because Adam went to a wedding about the second weekend that I was there, and he got COVID. But he was there on Monday, so he didn't know that he had it then. And we all had to go get tested, and there was nobody in the office for about a week. Now, this is kind of what made it all worth it, the fun things that we did in the office, so that I could fit in. We did a softball home run derby one Tuesday, and it was me, Adam, Scott, and Roe, who was the director of activities at Arcadia. I did not win that Saturday. We went to lunch at JJ's Chicken, which was a local spot. It was good food, but it was a little bit scary because a week later, the place was closed. So we might have been the last ones to go to JJ's. There was a little golf course in the office set up on the filing cabinet in front of the door, so people would just come through and you could talk to them and they would putt. It was, really helped me get to know people in the office. Mega Ball, which is pictured here, is a little physics game that everybody in the office takes part in. And my second day of trying it, I got the high score, and I was pretty proud of that. So there was a whiteboard, and I put my name at the top of that. And the next day, Roe came and beat it. So that was kind of annoying. And when Adam was out, we watched him 30 for 30s on his TV. Vin, who was the head ice hockey coach, he came in, he just did his work in there because there was nobody in there because there's really not many people in an athletics office in the summer. So that was a good time. I definitely enjoyed my time at Arcadia. I learned a lot. I may not have done all of what I thought I was going to do, but the things that I did, I enjoyed doing. And making those connections with Scott, with Adam, with Roe, with Vin, it was something that I'll kind of hold for the rest of my life. But Adam has been a resource for me throughout my job search. He's been a reference, and I can ask him about the schools in the area, how their program is, and what the sports information directors are like. And in the winter, he brought me back to work at a basketball game because he needed a spotter. And I walked in, and everybody treated me like I had never left. And it really felt good to feel like I was part of the Arcadia community.
Wes, how much do you think that this experience really assists you in running the Waynesburg basketball video board, and how much of that just overall knowledge from this experience as well do you think has been beneficial in your job hunt?
It didn't really help me with the video board. The video board was kind of separate, because I never really did anything like the video board at Arcadia. But the job hunt definitely, like I said, Adam was a great resource to me as I was finding places to work at, as I was interviewing, using him as a reference, and kind of just learning how the entire profession works. How an office is, because when I was trying to find a job, one of the main categories that I made on my Excel sheet was office vibes. I wanted to have an office that I wanted to come in and work in every single day. I didn't want to dread coming in to work every day because I knew I would be miserable.
You mentioned that it was difficult in being able to coordinate and tell people how to fit into a picture frame. Did that first of all get easier for you over your time there, and how did that change your perspective on leadership and being assertive?
Yeah, I didn't take many pictures. It was kind of just that day, and I also took pictures of basketball locker rooms, which never got posted on the site. But it was definitely hard in the beginning. But as just once you see people listen to you, and they do it with a smile, they're not annoyed, it kind of makes it easier. Just because you're doing something that you're supposed to, and you're not being imposing on them. You're just trying to get the best picture.
Are you interested in working with sports information agent SAS now, or are you looking to do something else in athletic media after your internship? How did that, guide your career path?
Like I said, just being in the office, because I'm sure Bob can attest. Sometimes it's a bit of drudgery, a bit of a grind. But the people make it all worthwhile. If you have good people in your office, you can enjoy coming to work every day. It kind of made me realize that, or I guess it just reinforced that I was, trying to go down that path. All right. Up next is Colin Rhodes in his time as the intern at Washington Wildlife.
When I first came to Waynesburg University, I wanted to become a sports writer. When it came time to look for internships, I wanted sports writing internships. So I thought, let's look for newspapers. But as the deadline really came fast, I needed something else because I couldn't find anything. I talked to some professors. They headed me towards Kyle Dawson. And I asked Kyle, who's from the Wild Things, is there something you have that involves a lot of writing? He told me apply for a media relations internship. And that's how I became a media relations intern at the Washington Wild Things for the summer of 2022. Now, Washington is about 30 minutes north of Waynesburg, but from where I live in Manor, Pennsylvania, it's about an hour away. I hopped on to I-76, out the New Staten exit, got on I-70, took that all the way to Washington. It's an hour to there and back.
Oftentimes, I would get there in the afternoon, wouldn't be coming home till past midnight, driving in the dark. And I-70 is, of course, a major trucking route, so I had to make sure I was comfortable with driving around a bunch of semi-trucks, and of course road work, because that's how Pennsylvania works. These are my supervisors. That's Kyle Dawson. He's a Waynesburg Department of Communication alum. He is the media relations manager at the Wild Things, the play-by-play announcer at the Wild Things, and as of 2022, he was the assistant general manager at the Wild Things. So he was very busy with his work. He was the one I was under the direction of for my entire internship. And then there was Sean Seaman. He was the creative services and production manager at the Wild Things. He's not there anymore, but he was the one that I worked with when Kyle was like, I don't have anything for you. This is where I worked most of the time, was the press box. I would often be either at the far right of the window on that side, or a front table, or on the back table, I'd be on the left side, right next to the scoreboard operating machine. This is where a lot of the interns would just hang out before games, before and after setup. Had a lot of fun just hanging out with a bunch of the WooCon guys, but also getting to know interns from other places. Became great friends with an intern from Point Park University. I think the press box was the best seats in the park, not just because that is the view we had each and every game, but also because it was roof, we had Wi-Fi of our own, and there was a restroom just down the hall. This is, of course, where the media were every game. Most of the time it was just Chris Dugan, the sports editor and Wild Things beat reporter from the Observer Reporter. But occasionally we get a media radio announcer from the visiting team. And of course, it wasn't the biggest thing, so it always felt like it was filled to the brim at every game. My primary duties, as I mentioned, I wanted to write, and so I did a lot of writing. News releases, features down there. Other times when I wasn't writing, I'd be attending to the needs of the visiting media. If they want something, sometimes I'd be the guy to go to. And other times, I'd be posting to Wild Things Instagram story. So for news releases, these were just recaps of events for each game. I'd talk about the score, how it got to there, use the inverted pyramid format that we all learned. These were usually a page long or shorter, single-spaced, of course, 12-point, and then always using Associated Press style. That is the standard, so I became very familiar with that style. I always sent them to Kyle after each and every game, usually via email, but other times there would be some issues, such as the Wi-Fi going out, and we'd have to find other ways. Needs of the media. This was unofficially called the Rover, because we'd just be in the press box or in the stadium, sort of roving around, waiting to be asked to do something, or just sort of on hand if needed. One of my favorite stories, though, was when I was asked to do something, well, asked in a sense. The Schaumburg Boomers were the first team to bring a visiting radio announcer to the Wild Things Park that season, and the radio announcer mentioned when the Wild Things $1 Milk and Cookies came up, that he had never been given milk and cookies at a baseball game at the stadium that he was visiting at before. And so during one of his breaks, I came up to him and said, "Would you like to get milk and cookies?" And he said he wouldn't turn that down, so I took that as yes, got milk and cookies for him. He loved it so much that he actually thanks me by name on his broadcast. The Instagram story. This was the primary duty where I wasn't in the press box most of the time. I'd be walking around the stadium, logged into the Wild Things Instagram account on my phone, of course getting the password from Dial. Most of what I did was just giving game updates such as the score. Sometimes I'd actually be recording in anticipation of something happening. I'd get, like, sometime on occasion, I'd get a home run by the Wild Things, or I'd get an RBI. And then, of course, because, as Erin said, Wild Things' big thing is making for our fans, I had to get fan interaction. That was sort of the brand of the Wild Things. Features. I didn't do this too often, but because it was writing but not news releases, I decided to put this in my primary duties. I only wrote 2 of them, and they either previewed an upcoming event or they covered a franchise landmark. The upcoming event that I covered was the Three Rivers Celebrity Softball game. Just to give some more detail on that,
Cam Hayward of the Pittsburgh Steelers hosted a celebrity softball game at Wild Things Park that season. There was two teams, Team Pittsburgh and Team World. Pittsburgh was local celebrities, World was just celebrities from across the US and Canada. And it was in benefit of the Hayward House. I got to interview Wild Things President Tony Buscelli for quotes in that feature, and that would be sent out as a preview for the celebrity softball game. And then I also wrote a feature on the number of Wild Things in the Frontier League All-Star game that year. They had a record number 9 players make the All-Star team for the West Division. And because they were the top team in the West Division, by the time the All-Star game rolled around, their coaching staff got to be the coaching staff for the West Division team. I got to get quotes from starting shortstop Nick Ward, who fives up for everyone who understands, and starting pitcher Rob Whalen, who was one of the first former Major League players the Wild Things ever signed. And those guys got to be the primary sources for the feature I wrote about the All-Star game. Some of the other duties that I picked up along the way, scoreboard operator was the one I frequented most. I learned how to operate their scoreboard system in the preseason, and I got to do that more often as other interns left, and I was the one intern who just picked it up naturally, knew what to do. And I do that on top of writing a news release on a lot of games. I was a camera operator for a game. Sean, his broadcast crew was a little short-staffed. He asked me to fill in because I was available. I got to do the high-home camera viewpoint, and that was a game that was interesting because the Gateway Grizzlies almost pitched a no-hitter that game. And then promotional video recorder, I did this as also a one-off thing for Sean. I don't know where the video I took went to, but it was mostly just trying to get shots of the game, but also shots of fan interaction. And then perhaps the most stereotypical intern job, carrying 5-gallon water cooler jugs from the front office, which was by the right field gate, to the press box, which was behind the bleachers behind home plate. That's a sizable difference. I'm thinking it's about the same distance as the hill that goes up in front of Buell Hall. Thankfully, it was flat for the most part. Challenges, I already mentioned the commute. It's an hour both ways, often returning home in the dark. There was trucks, there was road work, and of course, the gas. The gas got really expensive that summer, as we all know. I'd often be filling up $30-40 on a gallon, on a tank. Sometimes the technology would not be working. I mentioned that I needed to email most of my news releases to my supervisor. Well, early on in the season, the Wi-Fi went out at the stadium for a few days. I think it may have been a whole week, in fact. And we had to improvise. I put my news release on a thumb drive, gave it to him so he could download it to his computer and send out when he could. And then, of course, scheduling. Because of gas, I had to get a part-time job to help pay for it. The managers there, I worked at a grocery store for several summers at that point. They knew me well. They were really doing a good job at trying to work around my internship schedule. But sometimes my internship schedule would not be released until the start of the homestead. Early on, we had a set schedule. But then, because Kyle was very busy, Kyle would ask people if they were available certain games for the week. And then we would go off from there. Sometimes that would come in later than my managers at my part-time job would like it to, but they were good sports about it. Very thankful for that. And of course, sometimes I literally ask the morning of a game if Kyle needed me. My main takeaways from this internship: make connections. I mentioned Chris Dugan is the sports editor for YouTuber Reporter. He's also a good friend of Professor Krause. And he, at the end of my internship, offered me a job to write as a stringer, which is a part-time position for the YouTuber Reporter, high school football in Washington and Greene counties. And so it was really just making that connection with him over the summer, having conversations with him, getting to know him, that he decided he wanted me to write for an actual newspaper, and that helped me become an even better writer, I think. It got me that actual sports writing experience. Second thing, you'll learn as you write. I hadn't played baseball in about 10 years when I first started my internship. I didn't really follow baseball that well. I wasn't familiar with a lot of the rules, a lot of the statistics, but I learned a lot about baseball during my internship. And I also learned a lot about writing too, about how not to be repetitive, how to engage the reader's attention. And then lastly, I found that writing about sports is the right field for me. I enjoyed writing about baseball so much, even if it was just news releases, that I discovered this is where I want to be, this is where I want to make a living even. And so even just, if you are wondering what to do, take an internship. Not gonna hurt. Any questions? Yes?
What was the most difficult thing you did? One of those off-the-wall jobs, just popped up, you got a new opportunity. What was the hardest one?
Honestly, just having to adjust to my daily schedule for a while of things. I wouldn't have to leave until the afternoon, so I had most of my mornings free to myself, and then I wouldn't be coming back until past midnight. And so it was difficult to adjust to that. I'd be getting back really late. I like getting to bed on time if I can, and waking up early in the mornings, so it was a pretty difficult adjustment to that, but I did adjust over time. Yes?
What was the vibe of the stadium when no one was on staff?
Anticipation. It was very quiet. We were all like, is he or is he not going to do this? And I think they got to the 9th inning, and that's when there finally was a hit. But when the Gateway Grizzlies pulled that pitcher, everyone stood up and gave standing applause, which was really cool to see. Any other questions? Well, that is it. That is all for internship presentations for the 2022-2023 school year. And next week in the Cantz Auditorium, the Department of Communication is doing its awards ceremony at this time. So be sure to come here next Tuesday noon in the Cantz Auditorium for Communications Awards. Thank you.